Good morning, everyone. I'm very delighted that I can say that we're going to have now a panel discussion with four distinguished leaders and experts. My name is Nikolaus Rittinghausen. As Eunice said, I'm the manager of the Center for Cultural Diversity and Aging. And when we were preparing this forum, we thought we want to do something a little bit different where we get the perspectives of a provider, of a researcher, but also of the community or consumer representative. So I'm going to introduce you now to the first panelist. Professor Lily Shao is from the College of Nursing and Health Science at Flinders University, one of the panelists waving to us. Thank you, Lily. Then we have Amanda Weizenbeck. She is a caregiver for her mother, who is living with Lewy-body dementia, and she's also Dementia Australia advocate. And we really appreciate you here, Amanda. That's really very much appreciated. We also have with us Teresa Chu. She's a Commonwealth Home Support Program recipient, and she's representing the Chinese community, a bit more specifically CAS. And also we have with us from the Australian Multicultural Community Service, our esteemed colleague and friend, Sanisha Christoph. He is the Manager Access and Engagement at the AMCS. So without further ado, I will go to the question that we have for the panelists, and then there will be, as Eunice said, time for more for Q&A. You can then put your questions in the Q&A section of the chat. Now, the first question that I will address to kick us off with Lily is, how do you think culturally appropriate care looks like for the organization or the community you represent, particularly when we talk about entry-level aged care, such as the Commonwealth Home Support Program, and obviously knowing that you, Lily, you come from a researcher and from a workforce research perspective. How do you think culturally appropriate care looks like from your perspective, or should look like? You need to unmute yourself, Lily. Thanks.
Thank you, Nicholas, for the introduction. Yes, thanks. You sent the questions to the panelists. I've been thinking about and mainly reflect on my experience in working with both the service providers and the service recipients, and including those the cares of the people, of the old people that use the services. So from my point of view and through my experience, first I believe the culturally appropriate care is from the user's perspective, not from the provider's perspective. So the first point is very important. If we believe that, we need to empower the users and the cares. For example, if the users, they've got dementia or another disability, they cannot speak out for themselves, and the cares, the families need to be engaged and empowered to say if the services is culturally appropriate for them. For example, and also not only ask them to and take every opportunity and strategy to address their needs. And from the point of view, for example, to co-design the services with them from the beginning, and to monitor the services throughout the prevention of the services, and also to constantly think the feedback from them and give them opportunity to say if they like or they don't like, and also take regular, particularly regular and quality improvement projects to address the feedback and the comments from the users perspective. I would like to, because my research is very much involved in the dementia care, the support for the people with dementia and the cares, and we know large proportion of the people, old people with dementia from our cold community, they are cared for by the family cares, and they are less likely to be admitted to the nursing home. So, and at the entry level of the aged care, for those services, we need to consider their needs, and we need to partner with the carers to address their needs. And the second, my point, for the second is culturally appropriate care looks like the personalized care is not just to address the care needs for the entire group, and we know and we need to address at the individual level as well. So particularly based on the research evidence and we generated in Australia and from the international. So we need to tailor the services to the personal needs, not just to say they are from Greek, they are from the Italian background, and we need to provide some generic services to address the culture and the language use. And we also know the needs, they change over time when they migrated to Australia and when they adapted some of the culture in Australia. So it's very important to know, to assess the personalized care needs and document in the care plan and actually take the action to address. And the third point from my point of view is culturally appropriate care needs to consider the diversity within our culture group that reflect the second point as well, and to acknowledge the diversity within a group, particularly think about those people with dementia and with different level of the disability and the different stage of the dementia as well, and to actually design and develop and evaluate the services and based on the needs, based on the specific needs. So that's my 3 points about your first question. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lee. We have a hand raised. Could you put that in the chat box if that's okay with you, so we can check, because we are in the panel discussion. We'll have opportunities for questions later. And I now want to go, I also want to mention, I put in the link to the cultural care plan because it was talked about that we have a cultural care plan at the center. So that's in the chat if people are interested. And I want to go to Teresa and talk about how do you see culturally appropriate care from your perspective?
Thank you, Nicholas. Thank you for including me in this seminar. For cares that I represent as a service user, culturally appropriate care under the home care service, I think it would involve multilingual staff proficient in multicultural languages and English to enable seamless communication and understanding. Provision of relevant program information, resources, and signage in multicultural languages and English. Inclusion of culturally relevant spaces and activities, such as Tai Chi, Mahjong, traditional dancing and singing, and traditional festivals and cultural celebrations. Strong partnerships and engagement with local community organizations to build trust and co-design appropriate services. The goal is to create an environment where seniors feel respected, understood, and empowered to access the care they need. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Teresa, for sharing that. And I just want to mention as well that you can all contact either the Center for Culture, Diversity and Aging or the Multicultural Communities Council of Illawarra, or if you're from another state like Western Australia or Queensland, contact your local PCAC organization for training. And obviously also you have Eunice with us as sector support and development leader if you have any questions and want to do any follow-up with us. Now I want to go to Sinisha and Biljana just put in our email address, and Eunice will put their email addresses as well. Now we're going to Sinisha to see his perspective. Obviously, Sinisha is representing a service provider. How does culture appropriate care look from the community organization you represent, Sinisha? Thank you.
Thank you, Nikki. And thank you, everyone, for having me here today. It's an absolute pleasure to have this opportunity to talk to all of you. I have been involved in home care, in particular client advocacy and Commonwealth Home Support Program service provision for some time now. And I have witnessed a lot of changes in the industry as well. In the past decade. So I've been through consumer-directed care, then the home and community care transition to the Commonwealth Home Support Program, or the abbreviation that we use, CHSP. So what I wanted to mention is to you, providing care and services, and to the providers present here today, is not to forget about the good things that you're doing at the moment, and whatever works for you and your client at the moment, to keep those good practices. Yes, we should always strive to improve our service. We can always do better. We always incorporate continuous improvement as part of our practices, but don't overlook those very important small and big things that you do and are working very well for the people you're supporting and for your organization as well. In my experience, what I believe is very important is that you, as people, professionals, organizations, to understand your clients, to provide that excellent service. Understanding your clients, in my experience, means understanding their unique journeys. At the Australian Multicultural Community Services, we support predominantly people who speak English as a second language, people of migrant backgrounds, people from culturally and linguistically diverse backgrounds. In order to provide service to these people, you need to understand their journey, their migration journey, but their life journey as well. This will tell you who they are, and they will tell you how they need to and how they want to be supported. And you need to make that possible for them in order to keep them safe and at home for as long as possible. Whatever you learn will build trust, and when you build trust with a particular person, only then you can have great care planning, set great goals together with your clients, and work towards achieving those. If I can word everything in one sentence, that will be, to sum everything up, I will say, don't assume. Don't assume, but ask questions. Ask questions and then involve. And once you involve people, then empower them. Help them achieve and have what their goal is, and have the best possible life they can. That will be the best possible care that you can provide and make impact to their lives. So only then you will be able to have the best possible care plans and achieve 100% of the outcomes together with your clients. That will be all to begin with. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sinish, for this very heartfelt statement and explaining the journey. I think everybody talked about that today, the individual journey of the person. Now, the next question is, how can organizations representing either CHSP providers or community members and organizations, and also workforce representatives, including obviously researchers, work better together to improve the care for seniors from diverse backgrounds? And what I will do, I will go the other way around. So I'll let Sinisha, he was just in a run. I see what he thinks as a provider. I'm just re-emphasizing we're having about 112 people in the room. So I just explained we have the perspective from a provider, from a researcher, and also from two community consumer representatives. So Sanisha, the floor is yours again.
Thank you. What I think it's important to do here is to analyze data that is available to you as an organization, and in this way be strategic as well. But when you analyze data, not only stick to numbers and quantitative methods, but also do a lot of qualitative methods when you analyze your clients, and you give them the opportunity and implement some qualitative methods such as interviews with them. Have a discussion with a focus group, invite them, and showcase that their opinion is important to you. Provide that opportunity, and in this way, know their story. And why is the story important? Because at the end of the day, we're all becoming stories. Thank you.
Thanks, Sinisha. Teresa, how do you think we can work better together to improve the care for seniors from diverse backgrounds from your perspective?
Home care providers seek input and feedback from diverse community organizations and seniors. Community members can collaborate to influence policies at various levels and participate in campaigns to raise awareness about culturally competent care. Additionally, engaging in volunteer programs that support seniors through companionship and social activities can enhance community involvement. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jason. We have some great comments in the chat, we just want to highlight. Especially there's guidelines for trauma-informed care and also good feedback about your comments, Anisha. People are love to hear you, love to hear on your elaborations. And now, Amanda, what's your view on that subject?
I have to echo Sanisha. Please don't assume. Please also leverage the families, because it is a difficult time for the families to accept the fact that they have a loved one in a nursing home with dementia and possibly with other ailments on top of that, not just dementia as well. So bringing us together and understanding that you cannot do this alone, right? When I look at my own situation, my second home is the nursing home that my mother is in. That is my second home. Anything happens, they call me. Any questions they have, as opposed to going to Google, I'm the first phone call. So when I look at, different organizations like the CSP, community members organizations, workforce representative, again, it is a matter of engaging with the families. However, there are individuals that don't have families. What do we do in that instance? I want to go back again to the communities, the cultural community centers, right? We cannot do these alone. We've got to hold these community centres accountable to join forces with Australia's aged care and help us raise our people and care for our people. They can provide that culture education our staff need. They can assist in relieving family pressure. I'm here by myself. So if I'm not visiting mum, nobody else is. So I've got to lean on the African community that will understand. I've got to lean on mum's religious community. She's a staunch Catholic. To say, okay, could you please come in? You've got to support the families, because I'll tell you, I'm at a breaking point. There's only so much one person can do. I've got to lean on you. So if I know as a carer that, there is all of these different communities there, I will work with you to see how we can improve what we have. I'll have firsthand. Talking to a dementia patient will only get you so far, because after that memory goes, there's nothing else. There's only stories, like Sanisha says. There's only stories left. So please bring the families on that journey with you. That's the only way we'll be able to learn and move forward.
Thanks for sharing that with us, Amanda. I think everybody felt your words and they resonate with everyone. And Linda was saying that chat support for families is essential. Without care for carers, carers soon become consumers. There needs to be that support, I think, for the carers. I now go to Lily to see what she has to share with us on how we can improve care for seniors. How can we better work together to improve the care for seniors from diverse backgrounds? Thanks, Lily.
Thank you, Nicholas. And first, I agree with Sanisha, and we need to collect evidence to inform the practice, and we collect the evidence through the partnerships with the care recipients or the cares, as Amanda mentioned. If people have a dementia and another disability, so partnerships is very important. But I would like to add something about the power relations in the data collection and in generate the evidence as well. So within the organization, if we constantly collect feedback and comments from the end users, that will be great, and to drive the quality improvement. And we also need to collect data and through the external research group or agency or whatever you call, to avoid the power relations. We all know if you are frontline staff, if you have some relationships with your clients, and it's not possible for you to actually have a to collect the data or ask them. And particularly in our code community, people from code community, I'm from Chinese background, and Teresa is from Chinese background as well. I know particularly for the old Chinese, they don't want to say no, or they don't want to say something is not good, and yeah, for the frontline staff. So some strategies need to be in place to help us to truly understand what they need and give them an opportunity to say without any influence. So that's the first point I would like to make. And the second, the education and the training for the staff is very, very important to work better, to improve the services. And we know the in-service education is very important. There is no doubt. However, and because the limited resources and the opportunity for the service providers to get to know the evidence over the world. So the partnership between the service providers and the education and the research institutes is very important. We need to work together. And as the trade researchers, we know how to get the high level evidence from another countries or in Australia, and we can introduce to the service providers, and we can work together through the partnership to design the tailored education program for the organization. Or previously I won the grants and I work with the aged care providers. We developed the cross-cultural care program for aged care staff. That's the example. That project is an example through the partnership. And so far, more than 5 years passed already, and many of the aged care staff, they still use that program. So that's the example through the partnership. And the third, we need to advocate on the stakeholders, and we need funding, we need grants to enable the aged care providers and the researchers to work together. And we need to look at if the funding arrangements is fair. For example, if we've got 30% of the old people from the code community, we need to have a look if the funding distribution is reflect that, and if the funding is more is less, to be distributed to the code community to do this research and education program development. So at the policy level, we need to work together to advocate the funding and the policy development. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Lily, for sharing that. Thank you all the panelists for your amazing insights. We have one more question, and then we will open up for the general question from the audience and participants. So you can already start putting your question into the chat while I ask the last question to the panelists that we have prepared. So my next question is, where do you see opportunities to improve the delivery of culturally appropriate care at the local level? And I've seen we have in this room a number of people, for example, provide Meals on Wheels. Mostly of us here, I think, are CHSP providers or home care providers. We have a few people who also supporting or in the carer support space, as I understand, mental health space. So maybe I start with Amanda. Where do you see opportunities to improve the delivery of culturally appropriate care at that sort of local level? And you started to mention a few things. Thank you.
Sure. There's so many areas of improvement, and the beauty is there's also a lot of low-hanging fruit. But in order for us to really get a good handle or a decent enough handle on cultural appropriate care is to increase the number of residents that are utilizing our healthcare facilities. We still have a lot of people that are being cared for at home that could be receiving a lot better care within our healthcare centres. How do we get our, diverse communities coming in and using that? I had to defy a lot of traditions by placing my mom in a nursing home 8 years ago. It broke up the family. It did. But I couldn't think of anything anywhere better for mum because of the care that she had. As mentioned, she's the only person of color in her aged care facilities that can be isolating at the best of times. We talk about the pressures of isolating, of being, the only female in a boardroom. What about the only Black, Asian, Indian, Italian, Middle Eastern person in a nursing home with dementia, right? Isolation is not naturally in our nature, regardless of our background. So I believe that increased representation in aged care facilities is a dream that I would love to see happen. However, the only way that I see that happening is educating our communities, having conversations like we're having today here, where we let them know that it is okay to place your loved one in this care. It is not going to bring shame or take away any family honor. Right. And then when I look at, now that I'm in an aged care facilities, what improvement could there be? Mom is looking for somebody that looks like her. Mom is looking for somebody that can talk to her in a language that she understands. Dementia is a very isolating illness for the patient, for the carer, even for the person that's working there, because you don't know the person you're going to get. So things like food. Is there a way that we could get different types of food? Australia, we are one, but we're many, right? That's the beauty of Australia, right? We've got so many different diversities here. I love what Teresa was talking about when she was talking about Tai Chi within the nursing home. Just because you're Chinese doesn't mean you're not going to, or you're not Chinese doesn't mean you're not going to be interested in Tai Chi. There's so many proven benefits of an exercise like Tai Chi. So having the community come in and help, I think that's that low-hanging fruit. Food, music, engagement. Let's also provide support for our carers, as in the ones that are working in the nursing homes, right? So that they don't feel isolated. I watch the wonderful nurses and the RNs and the carers and the cooks and everything that turn up every day and get physically, verbally abused by a lot of people. Just that level of kindness to know that they're not alone. Yes, Lily, we need funding. We need policies, but communication and awareness is probably the best thing. If we can continue having these conversations nationally and educate everybody about them, I think everything else will start to fall in place, because we're all here for a reason. We all want the best for a lot of people. So how do we then put that forward?
Thank you very much, Amanda, for sharing that with everyone.
Sorry, I do have to say something. Dee Dee has put a note there, and Dee Dee, I completely agree with what you have said, and I have seen that happen. And I have seen somebody get so upset because soy sauce was put on. Funny enough, I don't know what it is about mashed potatoes, but it was put on there. And again, those level of sensitivities, just a bit of training would help. Somebody out there would have an answer to that. Thank you for that note, Didi. Put a smile on my face for not the right reasons, but I could relate. Thanks, Nicholas.
Thank you. We really appreciate that, Amanda, and thanks also for the comments in the chat box. Liddy, how do you see that improvement at the local level happening?
Yeah, thank you. And I would through my observation of the service delivery, for example, in the community and the aged care facilities, and again, based on my experience and observations, I would like to say the leadership is very important in the team, at the local, in the organization, or across all levels of the organization. What Amanda mentioned about the area needed to be improved, and I'm sure have been observed by people within the organization in the care team already. However, we do need to say the leadership to drive the change. Without the leadership, it's not possible. Yeah, and they continue to go through the routine care, and they just document and blame. There is no funding, no resources, or no support to make the changes. So if we would like to see the changes, we need to propel the leadership development within the organization, particularly at the team level, with the frontline staff. I'm sure Sanisha will share more about the leadership development and at the local level. So that's the driving force for change, and the education, training, coaching, and the role modeling and mentorship will help the leadership development as well. And the collaboration across different service providers, not just to protect their own services, but if you identified some organizations, they have done better. They demonstrate the leadership, recognize the leadership by different stakeholders, and we need the organization need to partner with them or have a knowledge exchange and build the mentorship to learn how to improve the food, how to improve the engagement with people with dementia, and how to create the new activities to address the loneliness of the people with dementia in the vicinity or in the community, and so on. So leadership is far more important from my observation. In the education training program I led, we developed one module about the leadership in cross-cultural care, and we need to acknowledge the leadership and at the local level. And I would like to say, and again, the audit and regular audit is very important to help the changes at the local level. The audit is not just through the government's standards and say from the external audit to drive the changes, and the internal organization at the internal level, they need to create the tools and the resources to go through audit regularly and to drive the changes as well. And again, through my previous project, we developed a number of the audit tools to help the aged care providers to assess if the food and if the daily care activities, the national activities, and so on have met the needs for our the clients from different cultural backgrounds. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Lily, for that and for adding that about, what's important for the providers definitely to consider at the local level. Sanisha, what would you like to add on that?
It's difficult to add anything to what was said so far, but I wanted to stop for a moment and just share with you and ask you to imagine how difficult it will be for someone who migrated to Australia and now is a senior to talk about care needs and what they can't do themselves when they came here to build a better life. How difficult it will be for them to talk about it. Have this in mind always when you ask questions or open such a discussion. There's something that I call ethnic pride. Some communities are so proud that they will never mention anything to you that represents a care need or need for support. Until last moment, they'll try to do it on their own, no matter is it safe for them or not. It is our responsibility and our job to make them comfortable to have that conversation with us and then provide the support. How we can improve is if we all partner together with the client, with their carers, with their support networks, with other organizations, other providers, to work in synergy to provide the best possible service, because if we work in silos, that's never gonna happen. Simply, we will not know what the other one is doing or what is important for the other one. So that's why working together in partnership can bring the best possible outcomes only. And this is when leadership comes as well, when we initiate partnerships as such. Thank you.
Very powerful word. Thank you, Sanisha, for sharing that with all of us. And yes, the recording will be made available to everyone afterwards. We will share it. Teresa, what's your view on that local level? How can we make improvements at the local level?
Thank you, Nick. To approve culturally appropriate care, service users can actively participate in information sections and festival celebrations. We can also engage in comprehensive cultural mapping to understand and share the diverse needs of the population. Additionally, we can attend digital training to enhance our digital literacy, allowing us to access online services and stay connected with the family and community. Thank you.
Thanks, Teresa, for sharing that. We now go over to the questions. I really want to thank all the panelists again. And there is a question in the chat from Linda. I will just read out that question. Being part of a peak body, it is notoriously difficult to consult with multicultural groups. How can we make it more inviting for cultural groups to be involved in systemic advocacy for that? And we can maybe reconvene as well later. And if anybody wants to contact either Eunice, MCCI or the center, we can have potentially a follow-up meeting if people wanted to get more involved and see what we can do in the advocacy space. So, I just wanted to ask, because I know that AIMS has been quite involved also in co-design projects. If you wanted to add anything from your perspective in terms of the question, how can we better engage with multicultural groups? I would think it's obviously needing to know where they are, who they are, building their trust, but I'll let you add to that.
Nikki, in my experience and in AMCS's experience, it all comes to trust. Diverse communities will need to trust you, to let you in and give you the opportunity for them to talk to them and present your information, so you can empower them with information and they can make an up-to-date and informed decision. I will tell you, in my personal opinion, I speak English as a third language. I do come from culturally and linguistically diverse background myself. So what built on that trust for me is speaking English with an accent. People resonate with that and they say, oh, you like me, like you understand me. And this is where it all starts. I understand, like, you know, yes, that was my thing. Your thing in accessing particular communities and engaging with them may be something else. Maybe establishing the link with the community leaders in a particular communities and disseminating information via them. Maybe through a small diversity lunch, let's say Middle Eastern feast. Food brings people together. Like during Diversity Week, organize something so they can talk about the beautiful food they have in their culture. Maybe remember what was the best food they have as someone who comes from, let's say, Macedonia, and their mom used to do that for them. So now they can make it and present that to the group with pride as well. They will just open up like a book and start talking about that and also other things. And this is your opportunity. So that's what I wanted to share with you.
Thank you so much, Sanisha. Look, we are pretty much run out of time. We have 5 minutes left. So because we don't have any specific question left, what I will do is I will ask a question that I've seen in the chat sort of floating as an issue, and that is about the culture appropriate food. We already discussed that. For providers, I know that sometimes it can be a challenge to provide culture appropriate food for various reasons. But we were talking about simple things, Amanda. You were talking about simple things, and you were referring, and that was referred in the chat as well. Sometimes it can be the simple things. So maybe I'll start with Teresa. How can providers improve their culture appropriate food? What gold nuggets, what advice can you give to providers?
I think the seniors, I'm not talking about those dementious people. I mean, for the ordinary seniors, they would like to attend some social activity groups so that they won't feel isolated from the community. And CARES has arranged some activity groups for the seniors. And for me, I was leading a senior group of nearly 100 people attending every Friday the activity group in Hurstville Senior Center. And what we do, we will have some line dancing, some square dancing, some Tai Chi exercises, English teaching, bingo exercises, etc. I think the senior, they all enjoy coming to the activity group so that they won't feel isolated at home. And And also, CARES has arranged a lot of seminars, information seminars for the seniors, and which is informative. And they have a digital mentors training for the seniors so that they can learn a bit about computer stuff, so that they can teach them how to use the mobile phone and little things on computer so that they can get connected with a bit of literary information. I think that is helpful for some of the seniors who can move around herself at the moment. I'm not talking about the dementia people, but this is also needed for seniors, like the seniors who come to attend our activity groups. And CARES has got 27 activity groups all over Sydney. So people can go and attend the activity group where near their home.
Thank you, Teresa, for sharing that. And I just want to mention, Amanda put into the chat cooking lessons for those seniors that are still very mobile. That could be a way for providers to maybe tap into that knowledge, what in terms of their cultural knowledge about their own culture and about their own recipes, the food. And thank you so much, Teresa, for sharing that your perspective, the importance of social inclusion and having social activities and the amazing activities you were running. Lily, what we will do is we have 1 minute left, so I give you the last word.
Okay, and just to remind, we've got large proportion of the aged care workers from CODE backgrounds. We need to acknowledge their expertise and the knowledge, experience in the care of the people from CODE community. So make use of the expertise and acknowledge the contributions, and that will resolve some of the culturally appropriate food, and does not need to cost more, and just change the mindset, willing to change and use the internal expertise and the knowledge. That will make the change very quickly without additional cost. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lily. Thank you very much, Amanda, Teresa, Sinisha. It was an amazing panel. If you all want to give a round of applause virtually, that would be fantastic for our amazing panelists. Thank you very much. And it was really a good conversation. I really enjoyed it. I think we all learned so much from it. It speaks to the room that most people actually stayed. Sometimes, people leave. We had everybody staying, and everybody was really excited. So thanks for your contributions and for all in the chat as well. Now, what we will do, we have a 10 minutes break, so 12:10 or in 10 minutes, depending on your time zone. We'll come back for the afternoon session. So you can just turn off your cameras if you want to. Please keep yourself on mute. And then we do the second session, which is mainly around volunteering. So thanks again for the panelists. Talk to you. See you in 10 minutes. Bye.
Okay, welcome back, everyone. Thanks for joining us at this afternoon's session, where we have a jam-packed afternoon with fantastic presentations. Our first one I'd like to introduce is from SS Tawig, the CEO of Aging with Grace and State Network member for the Aged Care Volunteers Visitors Scheme for ACT, New South Wales and Victoria. So when you're ready, SS, I'll hand it over to you now. Thank you.
Thank you, Eunice. Thank you all. And I appreciate you've got a very busy day, so I'll get straight into it. And I look forward to the questions and answers that in the session. So I'm the State Network member appointed by the Department of Health for the Aged Care Volunteer Visitor Scheme, as Eunice mentioned. We are funded by the Australian Government, so it is a federal service right across Australia. So although I represent those 3 jurisdictions, I can connect you with my colleagues, and the information applies across Australia, wherever you're from. So what is ACVIS? It is a program funded by the Australian Government, as mentioned already. The objective is to reduce the risk of loneliness and isolation in older people through volunteer visiting. So it's a really simple philosophy that through friendship and through creating a relationship, we can make a positive impact on older people's lives. We can add joy in their lives in their vintage years. And I'm sure that is an objective that you all have. You might not word it that way, that you're adding joy, but you are in all the services you provide to them, ensuring their physical well-being and and where possible, their emotional and mental well-being through the services you do provide. Now, you may know this service as the Community Visitor Scheme. It was called that since 1992, and then the Royal Commission changed it via recommendation from the findings to the Aged Care Volunteer Visitor Scheme. They wanted it to be clearer that it was for older people. There's about 141 organisations across Australia. The majority are in New South Wales and Victoria, I must be honest, but there's every single region except 5 aged care planning regions in Western Australia are covered, and the government's looking at how they can cover those areas as we speak. 18,163 funded places across Australia. Now, when we know that there's about 447,000 older people receiving home care packages or living in residential aged care services, that's not a huge number, but I can tell you we've still got some vacancies at the moment. And we're all funded by aged care planning regions. For example, Ageing with Grace, we're funded for 6 planning regions across Australia. And the beauty is the service is free of charge. It's not free of cost. It costs about $100 million over 3 years, free of charge, in addition to aged care services your older people are already receiving. So that is quite a bonus. We don't hear of that very often. I don't know of any services that are free in addition to services. So we've got 2 types of services. We've either got in residential aged care homes, face-to-face visiting one-on-one. So one visitor, one older person that we match. We're friendship makers. We match them and they continue visiting together. Or face-to-face visiting one visitor with up to 3 recipients at the one time. So small little group. For home care package recipients, we've only got face-to-face visiting one-on-one for obvious reasons. We're not going to be bringing home care package recipients together and all sorts of things, and we get into lots of strife. So it's face-to-face one-on-one. To be eligible, an older person needs to be living in an aged care home or receiving a home care package, or, and this was wonderful when they extended it out, they've extended it to people that have been assessed for either of those services and approved. So once they're approved, even though they might be waiting months and months, they can still receive the Aged Care Volunteer Visitor Scheme, which I think is terrific. At least they get something while they're waiting. And so if you've got a CHISP client who's assessed and approved for home care, they will receive this service while they're waiting. I'm not going to read out the diverse, complex vulnerability and cultural groups. I just wanted to put it up on screen for you, that we are targeting people from any of these groups if they've got one or more. However, as long as the older person's at risk of loneliness and isolation, and that can still include people that receive visits from family, by the way. You can still be lonely if you receive a visit a week or a visit a fortnight, etc., from family. Because it would be like saying that if we've got family, we don't need friends. That's not true. And we can still feel that we need that social connection. So, but if people are in any of these groups, absolutely we're focusing on them, and there's some specific organisations that will cater to them, generally speaking. Can I just point out the LGBTIQ, which I know lots of people, because of their age and for what they've been through, tend to not disclose. But if they disclose it to you and they'd like a visitor, we've got specific to that diversity group in each state and area that will provide a volunteer, and their volunteers are ready to go. Very generous group, obviously, but they're not receiving the referrals that we were expecting. So there's capacity there to take any referrals that you might send through to me. I get asked a lot, well, how often and the duration. So how often is a simple one. It is a minimum of 1 visit a fortnight. Now that's a minimum. That's just to meet our funding target. I know with Ageing with Grace, for example, and lots of organisations, we've identified that it's so much better if visits are more frequently. So we aim for visits that are weekly. The duration, again, it needs to not be like a welfare check of 5 minutes. How are you? See you later. It needs to be a proper visit. It needs to be time to have a cup of tea, if possible, to go for a walk, to go to a cafe, to go on an outing. So visits can be an hour, visits can be 3 hours. My husband used to visit a man called George, and then George passed away at 97, but Guy started visiting him at 95. Guy would leave in the morning, make him his coffee, his Turkish coffee. We're Egyptian background and Egyptians love Turkish coffee. And then he'd play, and then he would have a yarn with him, and then they would go out to lunch, and then they'd come back, play a game of backgammon, and Guy would literally tuck him into his nap at 4 o'clock and then come home. So literally visited all day and loved those visits. And they had a very special relationship. George rang him every day just to say hello, and he had no one else. So Guy loved it and didn't mind it at all, and was very sad when he passed, but he was really happy and felt honoured that he'd been able to make a difference for someone in their vintage years, when otherwise he could have been quite a lonely man. So isn't that a lovely, a lovely thing for Guy, more than honestly even George? But George just adored him and made such a difference, this friendship. And lots of our volunteers find the benefit is very mutual, I have to say, particularly like my husband, who's lost his father at a younger age. This man represented that relationship for him. And I find that and hear that all the time from volunteers. What do they do? I think I sort of explained it in a way by telling you the story of my husband. They can basically do anything that the older person does within reason. We don't tend to see anyone go skydiving or anything like that, but we get asked often, and I don't know if you find this, people love to sit and look at the ocean. They love going out for a coffee in a coffee shop, something that, you know, we might take for granted, and how easy is it? They just love to get out of the house, regardless of if it's residential or their own home, or if they're living with a relative, go out, watch people watch at the shopping centres, go for walks, go sit in the park. So we're not limited to just visiting and having a coffee in the house. It just depends on the older person's well-being, on their ability to be to look after their own personal hygiene on their own. So if there was somebody that needed support in that, that makes it trickier. But we've got around that. We've made sure someone visits the bathroom before the outing, and then goes out for a couple of hours, and then comes back within the sort of the time frame that they need. So we're always looking for solutions before we say no to anything. Basically, and I think this is really important, it's very person-centered. So it's really about what the older person wants, and we'll match the volunteer based on that. And that could include the culture, the diversity, the gender, the background interests, all sorts of things. We'll take all that into consideration when we're matching. In absolute extreme circumstances, we also provide, and we're allowed to, under what the government calls exceptional circumstances, virtual visiting. So let's say you've got a person that you're providing support to under the home care package, and that person's a hoarder. So it may not be suitable for a volunteer to visit. Then we would say, if the older person wants the visits virtually, that's what we'll do. We won't be just declining automatically. Our goal is not to decline. So then in those cases, we can have virtual visiting. If we just cannot, for any reasons, find a volunteer from the same, so let's say, background, and we've had this, I've got matches in Northern Territory, and we're looking for someone from an Indonesian background. Well, we've just had no luck. So in this case, what we're doing is we're looking for a match Indonesian virtually, so phone calls, but we're not going to give up. We don't give up. We're still going to be looking for a face-to-face. And once we can do that, then we'll swap over the matches, because we're only allowed one match, one visitor per older person. So we're always looking for other ways around it, but there is the exceptional circumstances in some cases. As a provider, there's very little you have to do, because you've got enough on your plate, frankly. You've got enough to do, you've got enough paperwork, enough processes. So all you need to do is submit the referral, and I'm about to turn that into an online form, but currently it's a Word document that you complete and send back to me. If you're an aged care home, as this slide, you would make the person feel welcome, but you basically submit the referral. We'll invite you to the first match. Once the volunteer is found, you can take us up on the offer or not. We would prefer you to, but if you can't, understandable with your workload, it's nice for you to meet the coordinator and the volunteer. And then if you want us to sort of give you updates every once in a while how the visits are going, we can do that. We can't give you the exact conversations, obviously. We don't even have that, but we can certainly let you know how the visits are going, and if they're continuing. That is quite important for you to be aware of. Most providers find out from the older person too. What rules apply, I think, is really important. You basically, under the Aged Care Act of 97, and we know that's currently being rewritten, but this part won't be changed. ACFIS volunteers are to be treated like you would family and friends. So as you have family and friends, this is what's done. So if it was in an aged care home, for example, and family and friends were rat tested, that's what would happen. Obviously, we tell our volunteers to be really mindful if they're unwell, if somebody in their home has been, been tested and they're COVID positive, to not go visit. Particularly, we've got some not nice things happening at the moment. We've got RSV, we've got COVID, we've got the flu. So we're really asking people not to go visit. And that hasn't changed. That's been the case for the last 32 years. You don't go if you're sick to an older person. You will receive a letter of introduction that will include our volunteers' National Police Check reference number and the expiry date. You keep that on file. And that shows you the proof that we've done the National Police Check. And if they need a stat dec, we'll let you know. That's needed for anyone that's lived overseas for 12 months or more, past the age of 16. Sorry, someone just needs to mute themselves. I'm really sorry.
Yes, thanks, Assis, for that. Please make sure that you are muted. I was going to say that as well. Somebody
Thanks,
is
Nicholas.
in the background. And just let you know, Assis, you have another 3 minutes, just a little time reminder.
Fantastic.
Thanks for the great presentation.
So what's really important is to let your older people know about the service, let their families know if you've got contact. It would be terrific if you do have newsletter. I'm not sure if your organisation, please include information. If you email me, I can write a spiel for you. You can take it off the government website, whatever suits you. The more older people that know of this service, and it's such a well-kept secret, unfortunately, the more older people we can make a difference to. It is a terrific thing for you to also say, hey, in addition to the whatever we're providing you, we can actually link you to a service that is going to be free in addition to your services. Where that comes in particularly handy is if they've expended all their services or if they're incredibly lonely and you already provide social support, this can be in addition to that. So it's really terrific what we can do working together. And that was just a story of friendship. I will send this through to you guys and you're welcome to look at them, but they're on the Department of Health website. And they're true friendships. They're friendships that have been going for quite a while, and you can see the warmth literally when you watch them and you see them. They're just such good mates, and there's quite a few stories of friendship on there. So thank you so much for your time. That's it from me. I hope I managed to fit into the time frame.
You very well did. Thank you very much, Assis, for the amazing presentation. Thank you. And I'll let Eunice, I now you can see you're back on screen. You want to introduce Selene quickly?
Yeah, hello. Thank you, Esses. Fantastic. Just such a fabulous initiative. So important, that social connection. It's so vital as part of being a happy and healthy human. So thanks again, Esses.
Thank you.
So our next speaker we have is Celine Akinci, the Manager of Diversity and Inclusion in New South Wales and ACT at the Multicultural Communities Council of Illawarra. Celine is also a partner in today's forum. So thank you, Celine. Over to you.
Hi, everyone. I'm so sorry. Esses, hi. I just woke up with the virus. It's not COVID, but I think it's harder than COVID. I can feel now. So my apology. So I'm a little bit slow. And I'll try my best. So I'm just sharing. Nice to see you, Esses. So we are working together with Esses. So
absolutely. And I'm so sorry you're unwell. It's shocking at the moment.
Yeah, and it was just the last minute, so I couldn't find anyone. It's okay.
Oh.
I'm just sharing my screen, and then please let me know if you are able to see. Is all good? Yeah. Okay. As like mentioned, like we are from the Multicultural Communities Council of Illawarra, and as like we are one of the ACWAS organizations, as Esses mentioned. So if you you can contact us as well, like if you need any other volunteers or the recipients in Illawarra region. So I would like to acknowledge the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander, the traditional custodians of the land where we are. Like I'm from the Darawal country. And I'm just really glad to see all the nature every day here. So I pay my respect to all. So as like as Esses mentioned, like the importance of the volunteering in aged care with the ACWAS program. So I just want to talk about a little bit the numbers as well. So according to the 2021 survey by the Australian Institute of Health and Welfare, So approximately 23 of the Australians aged 65 and over, they're feeling lonely at some point and then in their life. And then the research, Australian Institute of Family Studies, found that 1 in 4 older Australians experience social isolation, so which is characterized by limited social interactions and connections. And then we all know during the COVID restrictions, like one of the survey 2020 it's done, show that 33% of the people 65 and over, the feeling the loneliness, so all the restrictions, and then all the COVID, that there is no restrictions, but like as we know, like with the volunteer numbers and then like what has happened all life, it hasn't changed, but there were some changes as well. So is it still continue? Sorry. So volunteers play a very, very important the role in providing the friendship and reducing the feeling and loneliness in the individual's life. So so engaging with volunteers, it can help decreasing and depression and anxiety. So these are like some researches like done with that among the aged care recipients. And then when we are looking at the Australia, so 2021 census, the latest one, the Australia is one of the most multicultural, culturally and linguistically diverse population in the world. So 30% of the Australian resident population were born overseas. So and then when the new and emerging communities are coming as well. Sorry, it looks a little bit blurry here. The 3 major contributors to Australia's demographic make up the indigenous population and then British, the colonial. But again, that we have lots of, the numbers are coming, living in Australia from 55 and over, culturally and linguistically diverse background. And then probably this number is going to change soon with the new and emerging communities. So as the mentioned, both in home care and in residential the settings, the volunteers play a very, very important role by spending time with seniors, just being a friend with them. So having a coffee, as is mentioned, reduce the feelings of the loneliness and isolation. So offering them the social interaction that is often lacking due to language. So and then sometimes you don't, yes, speaking the same language is very, very important, which we are trying to as well, but there are some reality as is mentioned, Indonesian, the background person. And because of that, I'm just going to talk about the training, and then they're providing all the resources for the volunteers are very important, that they can understand the different cultures. So there is I just want to talk about one of the case study as well. So the 2 different volunteers, but maybe we don't have too much time. So it's on the right, Jane and Melissa were introduced through MCCI volunteering scheme in 2022. So after the lifting the COVID, the lockdowns, Melissa is coming from the IT, the background. And learn about the Aquas programs at one of the local expo. So she connected with Jane, who were suffering with the deep depression and restricted mobility, which was increasing the isolation during lockdowns as well. So their friendship, they began with home visits, where they share stories and connected over the different cultural backgrounds. So they both coming from the different cultural backgrounds. So they soon extended. So they start going out, the one of the cafes, or that they were just sitting at the beach and then having their coffees and then laughing. So and then the Jane introduced Melissa. Kumadichi is an Aboriginal the community where Jane volunteered. So the regular the connections and then companionship, the significantly improved the Jane's the mental health, and then help her to overcome the depression in the motivating her to focus on physical health improvements, and then the Jane lost her the blood patch, the Monty, but she has shown the resilience and continues to plan future activities. So this friendship really helped to Jane. So the recruitment strategies, I just want to talk about, like, maybe there are some Aquis organizations in this chat, in this the meeting, so they would like to know, like, I just want to talk about what we are doing as MCCI. So MCCI is developed a comprehensive the strategy tailored to attract and engage diverse volunteers. Well, as I mentioned, so sometimes the diverse volunteers or sometimes English-speaking volunteers are coming to our way. So our approach includes the targeted recruitment campaigns. So like we try to reach retirees and students or the professionals, like with the flexible schedules. Underline the culturally rich experiences and meaningful impacts they can have. So we focus on the cultural, the resonant messaging, and focus our outreach in areas with significant cold populations. So to do our engagement. So, and we have, like, as MCCI in Illawarra, like, we have already, like, very strong relationships, so with the local cold community organizations and the community leaders. Like, we build the trust and co-organize events, so encouraging the community leaders to advocate for volunteering opportunities at MCCI. So, and then we have a multi-channel approach, so the social media campaigns, local newsletter, or the local radio ads. And then we also use the recruitment platforms such as SIG or Go Volunteer. And additional, like, we host informational sessions and then workshops on the cultural competency as MCCI, and then the benefits of, like, we are talking about the benefits of volunteering. So while participating in the local, the cultural events to raise awarenesses around that program. So to ensure the effective the volunteer support for CALD seniors, like, we focus on creating detailed, like, profiles for volunteers and then also for recipients, like, as for the matching process. So capturing their skills and experiences and language abilities if they have, and their cultural competencies. So this comprehensive information is essential for making informal and successful matches with recipients. And then similar things, like sometimes, like, we are receiving the details about the individuals, like recipients, from the residential facilities or the home care organizations. So we do the ongoing support meetings and resources we are provided to address any challenges. So we regularly reviews effectiveness of the matches through the feedback from our volunteers, like, we are actively engaging them. So like, almost every 2 weeks, like, we are making phone calls, or we are just messaging, or we are emailing them to make sure, like, the outcome, like, this is the best matches and outcome. So as training, and as the Nikki mentioned, like, MCCI is holding the PCAC program as well. So we have a cultural awareness the training. So this is very essential for us. So this MCCI's approach. So for the volunteer support. So we are ensuring that the volunteers are equipped with the knowledge and sensitivity required to assist CALD seniors effectively. So this training involves organizing workshops and seminars led by the cultural experts at PCAC, and educating volunteers on the specific practices, languages, and the customs of the communities they will interact. So volunteers are also provided with resource materials. So, for example, I can send you the link later on, or Nikki, if you have, please put on the chat. So we have a Bridging Cultures booklet. It's just giving a very general information around the different cultures, like what is the communication style of the Turkish individuals, for example, what is the family structure looks like, something like that. And then, you know, like, as Essis mentioned, for example, like, her partner, so he was visiting someone and then they lost, like, so this is so important, especially as volunteers, they are going to the residential facilities, and then, you know, the recipients passed away. So we're providing the grief and loss the mental health first aid and effective communication skills for all volunteers. And then again, as I mentioned, so the regular support and then supervisions to maintain the volunteer engagement to be ensure the quality of service. So we place a strong the emphasis, like focusing on recognizing and rewarding the valuable contributions. And ECVAS has, like for example, are celebrated like with the certificates and awarded like the various milestones, like in after a year. Like if you are volunteer with us, like we are providing the certificate. So recognitions of their efforts through the newsletters, social media, or the local community events. So we acknowledge them so through the public events as well. So, and then we do the personal thank you notes. One of all the staff member, she likes writing poems, like we are writing poems for each individual volunteers. Like, you know, like the personal touch to express or gratitude for them. So again, as I mentioned, the regular feedback mechanism and all surveys like we are doing and then checkings ensures that they all feel heard and valued, because it's very important. So the volunteers, like we are treating them like employees, you know, like they are such an important the people. We do some social events, the gatherings for during the volunteers week and picnics, dinners, or you know, the trivia nights. We organize for all volunteers. And then there are, of course, the challenges for the recruiting, especially defining the specific languages, for example. So recruiting and retaining, so in that case, like might be sometimes difficult. So we need to, because of that, like, you know, like awarenesses in the outreach is very important, as I mentioned. So going to the community events, so talking about the program for the both the volunteers and then recipients. And then the burnout and then stress, again, as I mentioned, you know, that someone might the loss the recipients, like that they just build a very good relationship. So, but this is the reality of the life. So but it might be very, very difficult for the volunteers to accept that, the grief and loss. So and sometimes the expectations don't match, you know, because I think there may be the lack of understanding of the program. So because of that, it's very important to, you know, like to bring the acknowledgement. And then the cultural competency, you know, like the communication, again, as I mentioned, that sometimes the communication is not just only the language, it's just coming from the body language. Sometimes just holding hand might be enough. There are lots of the resources like PICAC, Victoria has the cultural cards, for example. We have, oh, sorry. So some practical solutions to attract and engage volunteers. We focus on connecting with specific communities and the groups that might be interested in volunteering. And then closely collaborating with the community organizations. So skill development is very important. Again, as I mentioned, you know, like all the trainings, cultural training, the mental health first aid or the grief and loss. Like we have, for example, like for all volunteers and then for all staff member, we have a multicultural hub. And then we, it's like a library. So all volunteers like have access to this online library. So there are the case studies and the presentations and then booklets and then guides. Everything is like over there if someone wants to do more research around and then understand the different cultures. Then celebrating together, as I mentioned, you know, like that we are doing the true, not just only through the volunteer week, but we are really acknowledging their support regularly. And again, for, you know, like for the sometimes like misunderstanding. So because of that, it's the clear rule and descriptions and then policies very important, like we are providing them through the volunteer handbook. and then simplified the training during or inductions as well. I think this is it. I don't know. Am I? Okay. Is all good? Yeah.
Thank you so much, Celine, for that fantastic presentation, and thank you for taking the time this morning under situation. So we wish you well. Thanks, Celine. You're a true trooper. And I also like to thank the partners in PCAC program as well for the wonderful works that they do and the contributions provided to all. So we encourage you all to get in touch with your local PCAC member in your local territory. Having any difficulties, certainly after today's forum, you can get in touch with any one of us and we'll be more than happy to provide you any connections and resources. So thank you again, Celine. Get well soon. So next on the agenda, well, in fact, we have some time for some Q&A. We have a few moments for any Q&A or comments in the chat. So I can see we've had a few comments come through. Linda mentions we do so much around promotion and connecting with service providers because of workloads and pressures, prioritising of physical and practical support. Example, DA assistance can be down on the priority list. Yeah, we want to keep engaging.
Sorry, that was my answer to a question about are we promoting to providers? And I was just saying we do a heck of a lot of promotion. This year alone, I've managed 110 promotional activities as state network member, but that's in addition to what organisations that are funded for the service do also. So we just keep promoting because it's really important to get it out. You guys are of such influence, if I'm honest. You're in a very strong position of positive influence. You already do so much. So if you can even set yourself some goals, and this is what I've done when I've worked with big providers, like I've been working with Bupa and BaptCare, etc. If you just set like a goal within an organisation and say, we're going to do 30 referrals in 30 days or 100 referrals in 100 days, whatever, it is just something to aspire to, and it just creates that opportunity for the social connection that we know we all need. Human beings are not meant to live on their own. They're meant to socialise, and this is a great way to add for an older person's life that joy that we want to and that relevance. We can, as you get older, you can unintentionally feel muted, like someone's put the mute button on you. They can see us, older people. We can see old people, but can we hear them? And I think this program reminds us of that.
Just very quickly, because Jordana is going to facilitate the Q&A, but before we go in there, I just want to ask Celine, do you want to take questions? You prefer not to take questions, obviously. What do you prefer?
I mean, if individuals put any questions on the chat, because I'm able to see them later on, I'm happy to provide any links or the resources like Bridging Cultures and everything later on.
Okay, thanks very much. So is that okay? So we hand over to Gordana for the Q&A then, if that's okay for everyone. And Helen, it's okay. People can just email you or email through GMC if they have any specific questions.
Okay, hello everyone. I hope you can hear me. There are not many questions in the chat box, but there are really some good questions. The first one is from Peter. Is the HK volunteer visitor scheme available to CHSP clients, many of who are isolated in their own home without family support or regular services? As is nodding, so give us the answer.
It's unfortunate because this is a question that comes up all the time, and sadly CHSP are not eligible for this service. The government has limited it to people that are living in an aged care home or receiving a home care package. Now, what we were able to do, and when I say we, the state network members, we advocated about 8 years ago really heavily, and we continue to, by the way, for CHSP. And what they said is, okay, we'll at least give it to people who are assessed for a home care package and approved and waitlisted. So we were able to at least push it back to that. but unfortunately not to CHSP. And the answer is because the funding is not enough. There's only 18,000 places for ACVIS across Australia. That's a drop in the ocean. If we included the CHSP, it'll become even less effective. So I apologise because I know there's so many CHSP providers here.
Okay, then so the next question is any training provided to volunteers? Is it for Celine?
Yeah, there is a lot
or
of
you can answer. Yeah.
Oh no, sorry, Celine is welcome to answer, but
you
yes.
can.
So the national guidelines from the government state that there's a minimum requirement for our volunteers, what they have as training. So we go through cultural diversity, communication, privacy and confidentiality, respecting boundaries. That's really important for us. Manual handling, as in no. Ensuring that they are clear on what the objective of the service is and so on. So they all must receive what we call induction training. And then anything in addition can be while they're volunteering. So let's say they're matched to Gladys and Gladys deteriorates and her cognition reduces. As an organisation, we'll encourage the volunteer to complete some training on dementia, for example, on understanding how to communicate with someone, or if they have to guide someone who's vision impaired, and so on. So we tailor it, but they all must get an induction training that includes core areas.
Very good. Thank you, Assis. I don't know if you answered this one. Do you reach out to service providers and encourage use of these services? Many service providers do not bother.
We do so much. We do so much promotion of this service. Like, this is a terrific meeting. I've got 69 people here and there was a bit more earlier. So hopefully that's 69 organisations. That is terrific. I was at a 3-day ACPA conference last week. So I sat and just exhibited. I do lots of media, radio, all sorts of things. Plus the ACVIS organisations do the same. So it's all about all of us now taking that information and sharing it and constantly sharing it out. It's really important. If you send me an email, I will send you information and send you the referral form and then link you to the organisation in your area.
Thank you. There is a question, I'm not sure I fully understand it. Do you find as the following generations expand that their cultural living becomes less? So
that was a great, I loved that question.
Yeah,
it's a great question. It really just depends because we've got migration still, which I don't think people always recognise the importance of migration. It's of incredible value to Australia, especially when our birth rate is not very high. So those people that come in always want to connect with older people because they've often left their family behind, unfortunately. They want to connect people from their own culture. But I do agree that as time goes by, but we're decades and decades off that, that'll potentially drop. But I know I'm Australian with an Egyptian heritage. I always call myself that. So I like the little parts of Egypt that I can still remember and the little languages, etc. So hopefully a lot of us will keep that alive and other diversities too.
Thank you, Assis. I don't think I have any more questions in the chat box. So shall we open this to the floor, Nikki?
I think we need to continue because we only have 10 minutes left. We're just on time. So we have two little things that we want to go through. So Yun, is it okay if I do the little spill and hand it back over to you? Okay. So we'll just share with you one thing that we do at the Center for Culture Diversity, engaging together with with PCAC Western Australia and also PCAC New South Wales ACT. Let me just see if I can quickly share the screen. Okay, so where is it coming up? So many screens, always happens, but what I will ask, Biljana, can you bring up the presentation, please, for me? I don't know what's happening. Are you able to do that? I don't know if she can hear me. Okay, I don't know. Otherwise, I will try again. Just check. Okay, I'll try again. Oh, what happened there? Okay. So just and share the entire screen. I don't know. I have to do it like that. Okay. So you just see yourself again, but I will just. So that's the. Can you see that slide? Slide 1. Can you see that? Can I get an okay? Because I can't see you. Can somebody let me know if you can see the diversity mentoring program?
Yes, we
Okay,
can.
thank you very much. I can only see one screen at the moment. So yeah, thank you very much. I just want to mention, and thanks so much for Gardana for facilitating the great Q&A, that at the Center for Cultural Diversity in Aging, we have a collaboration between aged care service providers and the center, and also MCCI, PCAC New South Wales, ACT, and Fortis Consulting, which is the PCAC for Western Australia. And part of the DMP, we offer 4 training sessions with senior leadership within an organization, where the primary objective is to enhance inclusive care governance across a span of 6 to 12 months. And why am I mentioning this to you? Because this program is currently open for applications until the 1st of July. So I'm just giving a very quick snapshot about the diversity mentoring program. What we do is we do organizational assessments. We do a policy and documentation review. We provide advice and report. And as I said, we have these training sessions as well. We share best practice and relevant business cases, and we also share any resource that we are aware that's related to culture appropriate aged care. And here you can see a little bit of a snapshot how the program looks like. So at the moment, we are opening for applications until the 1st of July, and that's open for CHSP providers, Commonwealth Home Support Program providers, obviously home care providers and residential aged care providers. We especially also encourage regional providers to apply. At the moment, because it's sort of a trial phase, we only able to accept organizations who are either located across either Western Australia, New South Wales, ACT, or Victoria. And it's a sort of 6 to 12 months program. You're going to be assessed at the initial stage of the program through our what we call inclusive service standards, and there will be a final assessment as well. And in the middle, in between, there will be a four sessions that you get for your leadership to help you implement culture inclusive aged care. And then you also get a badge at the end of the program. If you're interested to find more about the program, please email us at info@culturediversity.com.au or go to our website, culturediversity.com.au, under the training and development section, and go to the diversity mentoring program if you would like to participate in this free program. That's pretty much it from my side. And we just want to, encourage organizations to apply if you are interested, because it's an opportunity for you to improve your organizational diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I'm just putting the link to in the chat box as well as I'm finishing, because it's an opportunity for you, if you're in one of these 4 areas of Australia, to do that at an organizational level, and also to improve your culture inclusive aged care delivery. So think about it. Ask us or contact us if you have any question. It's a free program. We're still open for applications. And I hand it back to Eunice to wrap us up for the day. And I want to thank everyone as well. Eunice?
Thank you, Nicholas, and thank you everyone for attending today. So many great initiatives, connections and resources that we have out in the sector. And as I said earlier, please reach out to any one of us following today's session. Our contact details are in the chat, and certainly you will receive the recording following today. So I should just lastly mention there are a lot of volunteering opportunities, as we all know, within the CHSP and aged care space. Another point of contact is in connection with your local city council, jumping onto their website and seeing all the local volunteering initiatives available. Also, the National Sector Support and Development Network have many great resources as well available, so you can certainly get in touch with myself if you would like further information with that. But I'd again like to thank you all for joining us today. I hope you found the forum most beneficial, and from the chat I can see it was very well received. Certainly I'm sure there is stuff you can take away with you and implement that into your services and delivery, or at least learn something, we can take away something a page from the book, you know, lack of a better term, to help us, you know, better engage and connect with one and all within our communities, both young and old. So thank you again to all our panelists for sharing your insight and personal experiences. I also thank our presenters and our partners from the Centre of Cultural Diversity in Ageing, Multicultural Communities Council of Illawarra and PCAT, and the Aged Care Volunteers Visitors Scheme across ACT, New South Wales and Victoria. So thank you once again. I wish you all a blessed week ahead and a wonderful rest of your afternoon. All the best. Take care.